On yet another tragic plane crash, this time in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Terrence Lee is here with what we have learned today. Terrence.
Donna Scott, we're just learning that one of the jets involved belonged to Motley Crue's Vince Neil. He was not on board. Let's clarify that right up front. But this afternoon, when Neil's private plane landed at Scottsdale Airport, it veered off the runway and then slammed into a parked Gulfstream jet. Here's what we know tonight. One person died on impact. 4 others were hurt. Their injuries range from cuts and scrapes to broken ribs. TMZ is reporting Neil's girlfriend and her friend were on board. Both are in the hospital right now. The FAA has halted all flights into the airport, and officials say the plane's left landing gear failed when it touched down. Witnesses say it all happened so fast.
Something bad's going to happen because I saw the gear shear off over here, the left main gear, and it's just along for the ride at that point. And they're doing probably about 100 knots when I saw them exit the runway. So with no gear, you're not going to stop. And they had no thrust reversers out. They were landing when it happens.
The FAA and NTSB will investigate the crash. We'll update you as we learn more. But with 3 aviation disasters in the past 2 weeks and 84 lives lost in those tragedies, the pressure to find answers is growing. Dawn.
Should the ceasefire then be off?
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that be because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday. And if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think a lot of them are dead. I think a lot of the hostages are dead. I think it's a great human tragedy what's happened, how people can be that mean to do. I mean, the one guy was laughing when a hostage he thought his family was alive, found out the family was dead, and his captor, so to speak, started laughing because he thought it was so funny. You know, this is a different group of people. No, I would say Saturday at 12. We want them all back. I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it, but from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not here, all hell is going to break out.
Mr. President, in an interview this weekend, you said that Palestinians would not be guaranteed the right to return to Gaza if the U.S. were to develop it. What did you mean by that? And
we've spoken to a lot of Palestinians. They would love to leave Gaza if they could find a place to be. And I've spoken to various leaders of various countries in the not so distant area from where we're talking about, the Gaza Strip. And I think they were very positive about providing land. What we need is land. And if we could build a nice place for people to live safely, everybody in Gaza would do it. They've been persecuted. They've been spit on. They've been treated like trash. And they would love to get out of Gaza. But until now, they never had an alternative. Now they have an alternative. And as far as Hamas is concerned, you're seeing the real Hamas now with the hostages.
Mr. President, what if they on Gaza, you have the...
Who are you, from where?
The Wall Street Journal, sir.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Jordanian leader is coming in to see you.
Yeah.
Folks in Jordan have expressed opposition to taking in more Gazans, more Palestinians. How do you want to convince him to do otherwise?
I think he'll take. I mean, I do think he'll take, and I think other countries will take also. They have good hearts. I think they'll take.
But what about the Palestinians who just won't leave? Our team has spoken to many.
They're all going to leave when they have a place that's a better alternative. When they have a nice place that's safe, they're all going to leave. It's a hellhole right now.
But how are you so sure? Would the U.S. force them to leave?
You're going to see that they're all going to want to leave.
Mr. President, when it comes to Saturday noon, there's an American hostage who's still being held by Hamas right now. you worried about?
Look, you know, who knows? Are they alive? Are they not alive? But I saw the condition. When I saw the condition of the last ones that came out, and the women too, everybody. The one woman had her hand blown off because she was trying to stop a bullet being fired at her, okay? What kind of a situation is that? You saw her. I just think it's time to either you release everybody. They're not going to be alive right now, based on what I saw over the last 2 days. They're not going to be alive for long. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, it's going to be a different ballgame.
Mr. President, when you say all hell is going to break loose, are you speaking about retaliation from
You'll
Israel?
find out, and they'll find out too. Hamas will find out what I mean.
Mr. President, what they're
They're going to find out what I mean. These are sick people, and they'll find out what I mean Saturday at 12 o'clock.
But no
A new strain of bird flu, which killed a man in Louisiana earlier this year, has now been detected in dairy cows in Nevada. The detection, part of a national milk testing program, indicates the strain, previously linked to migrating birds and poultry, has spilled over into cattle.
The cause of the deadly plane crash in Washington, D.C. may have just been uncovered as revealed by their black box. Scientists panic as a new strain of bird flu has been found in dairy cattle, and another tragic plane crash has just been recorded, this time in Alaska. Guys, let's go ahead and start with what may have actually caused the Black Hawk helicopter to crash straight into a D.C. plane. Real quick, I want to thank y'all for being here. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate you guys. So a new NTSB report confirms that they were flying 100 feet too high. Now, this matches the information from an air traffic control radar. So instead of flying at the ceiling height of 200 feet, they were instead way above their maximum altitude, which matches the data that the crash occurred at around 325 feet up in the air. Now, the black box of the Black Hawk helicopter was recently recovered in the Potomac River. The NTSB had the numbers at hand, but they had to wait for an air traffic control data to confirm its altitude. And so now radar data is rounded off to the nearest 100 feet, which means that they were flying somewhere between 251 and 349 feet of elevation. Captain Rebecca M. Lobach, the pilot for the helicopter, didn't seem to make any changes even until the point of impact. The plane's pilot, on the other hand, tried to jerk the aircraft upwards in an attempt to avoid the collision. Now, you might be thinking, well, why didn't the helicopter try to pivot or do something to avoid the plane, right? Well, some have speculated that it is possible that they were unaware that the plane was right in front of them. And that's because they theorized that all three passengers were wearing night vision goggles.
The question of whether or not the soldiers were wearing these goggles, one, hasn't been answered yet, and two, has become such a focal point of this investigation. Just for starters, how common is it for military helicopter pilots to be wearing these while they're night flying?
I mean, that's what we're known for, is to wear night vision goggles, fly in the night, in the dark of the night, stealthily for missions if needed. And so training and maintaining our aptitude, flying those it's a very arduous, very intensive flight mode. It's just necessary to have that training.
Yeah. So would you need to be wearing those to kind of fly and navigate in around DC? Because you think about how congested of a city it is, how many lights there are. Would those have been necessary that night?
That is a question that I have as well, because that close to the airport, what happens is when you have too much ambient light, they start to kind of fuzz and fade and not be as effective when they have too much light. So they possibly might have flipped, they're on a little bracket, they might have flipped their goggles up that close to the airport. That's definitely a question we need answered from the investigation.
Yeah, and if it comes back that they were in fact wearing them at the time, is that going to definitely tell you what happened that night, or will there ever be any real way to know what kind of role those might have played?
Well, the combined data recorder should have a voice recording of the cockpit. So we actually will get answers, and it was really remarkable that it did, because not all Blackhawks have that capability. So we're going to find out from the voice recording when that gets released or the findings sent to, briefed to us. But it is a contributing factor, because when you're wearing night vision goggles, you have a limited field of view. Think you're looking through 2 toilet paper tubes. Mm-hmm. How much can you see up? How much can you see without moving your head? So it is definitely a factor that is what they were looking through that could have limited their field of view, especially up through the rotor system. And with the light from the CRJ, it could have blinded out, kind of like looking into the sun, and blinded out those NVGs.
I'm not sure if the reason of having NVGs on is that plausible, because as she said, the CRJ would have been very bright if they had those on. There's also the fact that the air traffic control warned them multiple times that a plane was landing. But here's where things really take a turn, okay? Senator Ted Cruz said that the advanced tracking system for the Black Hawk helicopter was turned off at the time of the incident, which adds yet another piece to the puzzle here. It's called an Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, or ADS-B. It's described by the FAA as an advanced surveillance technology that combines an aircraft's positioning source, aircraft avionics, and ground infrastructure to create an accurate surveillance interface between aircraft and air traffic control. Now, we're not sure if the voice recordings will be released to the public and if that will explain why they shut the system off, but it's for sure bound to shed some light as to what really happened in that cockpit.
Just listen to this.
If Israel wants to destroy Hamas, Israel should go ahead and destroy Hamas. If Israel wants to destroy Hezbollah, Israel should go ahead and destroy Hezbollah. If Israel and Mossad want to pull off Munich 2.0 and take out every last leader of Hamas, wherever they may be hiding from Doha to Dresden, host a red wedding at the Four Seasons in Qatar, the next time Haniyeh and Mashal show up, they should go ahead and do it. If Israel wants to at long last abandon the myth of a two-state solution, Israel should go ahead and abandon a two-state solution. The rest of the Arab world can absorb Palestinians just as the Jews absorbed their people out of 22 countries they were kicked out of since 1948. I would love nothing more than for the IDF to put the heads of the top 100 Hamas leaders on stakes and line them up on the Israel-Gaza border as a sign that October 7, 2023 will never happen again. That is Israel's decision to make, not ours. That is what David Ben-Gurion would tell Israel to do. That is what George Washington would tell the United States to do.